Before I start, I want to say, make one thing clear. In order to, suggest future everything wrong with, go to my Discord. I have, a little channel on there that's basically, you can suggest things and stuff. And, there should be a channel on there, and you can feel free to post any episodes you want to be reviewed, or not reviewed, but just, send on everything wrong with. I did get a lot of reasons or a lot of suggestions to do this episode and everything wrong with. I am gonna choose to not do an episode of everything wrong with on this Backyardigans 1 hour special. Just let me review it, because I honestly don't want to watch this episode in fear of falling the fuck to sleep, because this episode is very, very boring. Let me go ahead and give you the premise real quick. Austin is a robotic mechanic person. I guess he's a robotic repairman or whatever. And he's claiming that every robot is perfect and there'll be no problems with any robot because robots never break. Yeah, no robots never ever break, huh? Yeah, that makes sense. But surprise, surprise, they do start breaking, and he has to go through and actually, fix all the robots or whatever. But the reason why they're breaking is because some supervillain, his name, I actually don't know what his name is. I actually forgot. That's how forgettable he was. Yeah, it was Pablo, but he's a supervillain and stuff, and he wants to rule the robots and rule the city of robot things. I don't know why, but he's doing it because no more motive, I guess. I don't know. He just wants to, I guess. But fucking whatever. And thus, the robotic repairman has to stop him in any way he possibly can. And this episode is about as amazing as that little synopsis was. And by amazing, I mean not even close. This episode just has a big problem, and that's just filler. This episode is an hour long. This episode is a full 1 hour long. And something that International Super Spy was that it was really good at keeping that hour-long thing and not seem like filler. The first 5 minutes, you understand what International Super Spy is. You understand the reason what's going on. You understand why we're having this episode. In the first 30 minutes, you have no idea what's happening until finally, at the cliffhanger of the first part, the villain tells you what he's doing. It's not like Lady in Pink or other things where you understand what's going on or you hear it through monologue from other characters, like Tasha telling Pablo that, hey, there's these 3 secret containers and you have to find them before the Lady in Pink does. Did I mention that the way the villain introduces himself is a blatant ripoff of Lady in Pink? It's bad. It's terrible. The Lady in Pink was amazing. Lady in Pink was beautiful because it had so much presentation. Here, it's just Pablo dancing in front of a red screen. There's nothing. There is no animation. There's no effort. There's no fluidity. The song is okay, I guess, but I can't really think about the song more so than the actual visuals. The visuals were not good. And that's the big thing. That was the main selling point of Lady in Pink for me personally, was the visuals of how amazing it looked. It looked interesting. It looked it was like, wow, we're really getting introduced to this character. That's how a character should make an entrance. They should have a huge musical number or whatever, at least in this show, in terms of this show and what it's going for. It should do that, and it should be visually impressive. That's what it should be. And that's exactly what Lady in Pink was. It was a good song, and it was visually impressive. Here, you have a mediocre song, but not really that visually impressive. Now, if it was visually impressive, maybe I would have said it was okay. But if it's not visually impressive and it's not interesting to me, it's not interesting, and it's not compelling. Not to mention the entirety of this first part, if you could believe it or not, is entirely filler. There are 3, count them, 3 times that the robotic repairman has to repair a robot. They could have done it once. There is no tension. We know what's going on. We already know what's happening. It's Pablo who's causing it. It's so blatantly obvious, but the special just wants to drag it on for as long as humanly possible, and it doesn't do it well. It doesn't do it well. Positives? I don't think there are any. Aside from maybe a few times where it made me laugh, but even then, those were kind of just like, that was funny, I guess. It wasn't even that big of a deal. There was no interesting thing. There was no fun. It just didn't seem fun. It felt like a slug. It felt like a slug going across the finish line. That's what it felt like. The entire episode was watching a slug compete in a race. It goes the slowest little bit. Then finally the finale happens and it slowly crawls its way through the finish line. There was no substance. There was no heart. The songs felt like there was something missing. I just couldn't put my finger on it. It just felt like there was something wrong. It really did. I understand why people want me to do everything wrong with, because this episode is a mess. There is nothing about it that I can see that was actually decent. And quite possibly the worst part about it is that the episode doesn't really have a good ending. There's really nothing here. You know the lady in pink at the very end of International Super Spy? It's revealed that, well, her evil plan was to make chocolate milk. There was no real thing. That's it. That's the threat. It's been canceled. It was a false alarm. There was nothing there that was very dangerous. And it ended like that. And they even had a song about, oh man, she's good now. Oh man, she's this. Just because you repeat the beats from that and making Pablo be like, oh, I can change as we just stopped him. I can change, whatever, 5 seconds after. Hell, not even that. It took until finally Agent Secret to save Lady in Pink's life for her to finally understand that, hey, maybe being a good guy isn't so bad after all. Here we just had a villain get foiled by a robotic repairman of all people, and he's like, oh, I can help you fix it, I guess. Not only that, he says like, oh man, I know a lot about robots, you know. Well, I wish we could see that, because the next fucking, I kid you not, the next like 10 seconds his stomach rumbles. And that's the end of the episode, because they have to go and go get something to eat or whatever. I'm like, so I guess all the robots are just going to be evil because they have little bugs that went in there, because robots and bugs, get it? But you need something. You need some sort of closure. You need a reason for the audience to be there. You need that. And unfortunately, you didn't have anything. There wasn't even a musical number at the end with all of them together. You know, the whole, now the world is saved from danger and everything's okay. There was none of that. There was none of that type of thing from International Super Spy that was there. And by the way, a lot of people are going to annoy the hell out of me for, comparing this to International Super Spy. But what the fuck else am I going to compare it to? What the fuck else am I going to compare it to, aside from International Super Spy? What else? It really copies that beat. It copies that formula. It really does. I mean, not the super spy element, but it does copy that basic good guys and villain mentality. And I expect that if it does it once and does it well, I expect it to do it again and do it better. This episode is a hot mess. This episode is just, I don't even know what this episode was. I literally felt like I was watching a modern day Nick Jr. show, and I'm nostalgic for the show. Now, it could be because I've never actually seen this episode before. I'm not nostalgic for it, unlike I was with International Super Spy. But I gotta tell you something, man. I gotta tell you something. I just don't think, I wouldn't recommend this episode to anybody. If you want to go watch it, go ahead, but I warn you. It belongs in the deepest pits of fire and lava, and it probably shouldn't be seen by anyone else. And I know one damn thing is for damn sure. I am not rewatching this episode to do a sin video on it. It just isn't worth it. It is not worth it. I'm so sorry, High Tea. That was my original worst episode, in my humble opinion, of the show. I take back everything I said that was bad about that episode, and I'm just gonna eat my own words and look at this as the worst episode in the entire series of Backyardigans. The Backyardigans is known for good musical numbers. It's known for interesting stories. If there is no interesting story happening, and there's no musical numbers that are good to even speak about, then this episode fails on all levels. It is a bad episode if it wasn't painfully obvious enough already. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must indulge myself in good, actual good Backyardigans content. I will see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.